weird Twitter drama to dissect today. People seem to have been behaving themselves. Well, it's either people have been behaving themselves or I've done the right thing and stayed the fuck off Twitter. I think it's the latter. Never heard of an Apple car before.
Grand plans for the future of Apple. He wanted to build a car. Now this was ambitious. This was an ambitious plan for Steve because previously to this point, the company had not made cars. To be fair, in Detroit, where they were making all the cars, things were not going well. Obama he was bailing out. He was doing the bailouts. The cars were bad. They were breaking down constantly. Most people were moving to the Oriental cars at this time. Can we
The Oriental cars.
still say that? In Jobs
No, you cannot.
figured, hey, should be easy enough for me, Steve Jobs, to take on the big three. But he also had some other competition. See, Tesla, they just launched the first Tesla Roadster. Jobs liked the idea that somebody, somewhere, could just make a car. He just wanted to do that. But luckily, I mean,
I would climb into the fucking car made by Steve Jobs. Like, who the fuck? No. If people are. No. I would not do that. That's just a recipe for disaster. Like, yeah, I've got a fucking Apple car. No. That doesn't even sound right, man. I'm sorry. Nope.
unfortunately, he died.
Fortunately, he died.
Hey, look. Everybody look, it's the Surfshark. It's the Surfshark, everybody, from Surfshark VPN. That's a few Chinese companies. Oh, use that link. In the past 60 years or so, we really haven't seen a lot of companies pop up and start making cars. Maybe a few Chinese companies. But when we're talking global car manufacturers that have sprung up in the second half of the 20th century, you got maybe a Hyundai, a Kia, and that's about it. There is the exception, one exception, in Tesla. But it took Tesla
Yeah, how's that working out for him?
like 16 years to start making money.
Finally catching a stream from North America's #1 Maoist. Well, you said it, I didn't. I am, for sure, DSA's favorite Maoist. I've been told this by several fellow DSA members. I don't think I'm North America's #1 Maoist. To be North America's #1 Maoist, I think you would have to, like, lead a revolution or do something like that, or contribute some theory to the revolutionary cause. I mean, I've written quite a few articles, but I will not say that I have made a sterling contribution by making videos and writing down my thoughts. But hey, I'll take my flowers while I can get them.
And before that point, it needed a lot of government subsidies. It had pretty much no major competition, and there was a lot of money from investors to get to that point. Yes, a lot of smaller manufacturers have popped up with smaller production numbers, but these are not mass market machines. These are not massive companies. They're not selling a ton of units. Again, we don't know if Steve Jobs knew this. I doubt it. His brain was riddled with vegetarianism and all those other diseases by this point, so he wasn't all there. But there was something going on by one of Apple's largest competitors that was catching the eye of the company's new CEO, Tim Apple. The Google car. Yeah, around 2014 or so, the Google
Oh, really? How did that work?
car was one of the most
I'm sorry. I do not want a vehicle that's made by a fucking search engine. I'm sorry.
high technologies out there.
Ugh.
Cars that don't.
This guy is fucking annoying. I can't stand him.
Retaliation
Stop recommending me this stupid shit.
and recrimination.
How likely is a regional conflict in the Middle East? Well, apparently 71% of Israelis would be okay with invading Lebanon, so yeah.
Israel has ramped
I don't know. Like, the Israeli psyche is weird. Like, somebody could definitely win a Franz Fanon award for, like, breaking down how these people fucking think. Like, you're getting your ass whooped in Gaza. The entire world hates you. And you think that starting another front, of this genocidal war in Lebanon is going to turn out well for you.
Up its strikes on Hezbollah,
Oh, what's up, Hayat?
killing civilians
Long time no chat.
in Lebanon. A move that the group says won't go unpunished. Combined with the war on Gaza, could this exchange escalate into a regional conflict? This is Inside Story.
Ooh, very shiny office. Or studio.
Hello, welcome to the program. I'm Adrian Finnegan. The Israeli military has been exchanging fire with the Lebanese group Hezbollah almost daily since October 7th. Hezbollah says that it's in solidarity with its ally in Gaza, Hamas, and that it will continue as long as Israel bombards the Strip. At least 200 fighters and 13 soldiers have been killed, but this week Israeli strikes killed 10 civilians, including children, in southern
Many such cases.
Lebanon. Hezbollah has promised to retaliate, and Lebanon submitted a complaint to the UN Security Council. Both sides.
Hey, sorry, I completely missed your stream yesterday, BRG. I was on a really strong bender at the club the night before. Lots of coke, lots of liquor, lots of loose women. Ended up having a hangover and didn't wake up until your stream ended. You know how it is. Oh, dear. Well, it's good to see that you are enjoying your youth.
Say they're not.
Look, what the fuck? If I had to choose between watching me and going to get drunk at the fucking club, I would choose the latter.
Not looking for all-out war, but increasingly attacks are happening far beyond the border area. So what does each party want to achieve, and how likely is a regional conflict?
Israel wants to completely wipe Gaza clean so I could turn it into the fucking new Dubai, and Hamas and Hezbollah want to prevent this from happening and unite Palestine. So it's pretty straightforward, my guy.
We'll explore all of this with our guests in just a moment, but first, this report.
He does have a very depressing face. He's British, so yeah.
By Malachabe Motsepe.
Since Israel launched its war on Gaza 4 months ago, the army's exchanges with resistance movements in the region have escalated. The conflict between the Israeli military and Hezbollah at the Lebanon border has fled as the group pledged solidarity with Hamas against Israeli aggression. There have been near-daily exchanges of fire since October the 7th. Wednesday was the most volatile. 3 Hezbollah fighters and at least 10 civilians were killed in southern Lebanon. The group's leader promised Israel would pay.
We are fighting in southern Lebanon with our eyes on Gaza. When the aggression stops against Gaza and when the shooting stops in Gaza, we will stop the shooting in the south.
This is what international solidarity looks like. Like, I saw some idiot on Twitter. I know I said that people seem to be behaving themselves on Twitter, but it's Twitter. Somebody said this: would Palestine go this hard for us? First of all, like, America is fucking rotted your brain, okay? Pretty little Leo. Views from heaven. More like views from fucking hell. Views from Wall Street. Views from the Imperial Core. Like, this is the most selfish-minded American bullshit that I've ever seen. Like, black people have a worldwide reputation of being revolutionaries, okay? And it's a reputation that we should be proud of, but it's people like this that throw salt in the game. Would Palestine go this hard for us? Like, you're thinking like a fucking American. You're thinking like a white person. Like, you think that everything is a transaction. Everything is a deal. Everything, okay, if you do this, then we'll back you up. Like, that's no. These people are literally being genocided. These people are being massacred. There's entire families whose bloodline can never, ever be found again because every single living member of this family has been murdered. And this is what... Okay, first of all, like, black people in the United States, we go through hell, but we're not going through Palestine type hell, okay? Like, we're not getting bombed. Hundreds of us are dying. Hundreds of us are dying daily, okay? We're not getting, like... Okay. Imagine every single black person had to live in either D.C. or Atlanta, okay? D.C. is the West Bank. Atlanta is Gaza. Okay? Bear with me here. So... the United States or the Klan or whoever the fuck wants to wipe us out just flattens Atlanta, okay? So we have to run back and forth between like various parts of Atlanta until we're all pinned in this little chunk right here at the bottom. And then they start bombing that too. Yeah, all 44 fucking million of us. Well, half of us, 22 million, live in Atlanta. The other 22 million live in Washington, D.C. Either way, it's not going to be a good time. And we have no medicine, we have no food, we have no nothing. Okay, like black people are not catching that type of hell. We still catch hell. We've caught hell throughout our 500 years in this country, but like it is not Palestinian style hell. So you cannot like draw that type of comparison. Like, would Palestine go this hard for us? Yes, they have. Backed us up every time we have risen in rebellion against the police. But at the same time, like, this is not how you build international solidarity. America has stolen your fucking soul. This is a disgusting and fucked up way to talk and think about people who are undergoing a literal fucking genocide. What the fuck is wrong with you? America has stolen your soul. Here's another stupid thing. Black activists, the Hamas war to liberate Palestine is not your battle. As a black Jew, it grieves me to see some young African Americans adopting the Hamas line and the copy-paste theatrics of shared struggle that serves no one. Nope, fuck you, red triangle. You're no brother of mine, you are an enemy. Pal Action US has been suspended. I wonder what they did. Well, you really don't have to do anything to get banned on fucking Elon Musk's Twitter. The boar needs the Winnie Mandela treatment, the necklace treatment. If you don't know what a necklace is, look it up. Look it up on Google. Winnie Mandela's necklace. They would basically put a old tire around you, fill it with gasoline, and strike a match and set it on fire. That's the treatment this asshole needs. Liberals are saying rest in power for Navalny. This was a Russian opposition guy who was locked up because he pissed the powers that be over there off. Okay, here's the thing, like, just because somebody is incarcerated in a objectively shitty state, that doesn't mean that they're a good person. This guy, Navalny, compared Muslims and migrants to cockroaches. And even Cornel West needs to go sit his ass somewhere down. Like, he needs to go sit out somewhere. He wrote this nonsense. My prayers are with the precious families of the courageous Russian political prisoner, the late Alexei Navalny, just as I pray for my dear brothers Mumia Abu Jamal, Imam Jamil Abdullah Alamin, Leonard Peltier, and Sister Nargis Mohammadi, and all other political prisoners in U.S. and in the world. Free all political prisoners under cruel and unjust systems of oppression. Okay, one of these things is not like the other. You cannot compare Alexei Navalny, a guy who literally compared migrants to cockroaches, to Mumia Abu Jamal, H. Rat Brown, also known as Imam Jamil Abdullah Alamin, Leonard Peltier, and Nargis Mohammadi. You cannot do that. Okay, that's why, like, I'm not taking this guy's presidential campaign seriously. He's full of shit.
Next day, Hezbollah fired rockets towards northern Israel. However, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant says the country is not looking for full-scale conflict.
Oh, you are full of shit. You are full of shit. You've attacked Syria. You've attacked Lebanon. You've turned Gaza into a fucking parking lot. What do you mean you are not looking for full-scale conflict? Like, what the fuck are you looking for?
The planes that are flying in Lebanon's sky as we speak have targets, and they know to attack them and how to change their attack from one place to another. We could do a copy-paste from Gaza to Beirut, but we don't want to go there. Israel would pay
Yes, you do.
a heavy price, and it would be
You need to pay a heavy price.
catastrophic to Lebanon and Hezbollah.
Oh, now you're suddenly concerned about civilians in Lebanon. You're full of shit. These people realize that they're like what they've been doing to Gaza, what they've been doing to Rafah, what they've been doing to the West Bank. Like, this shit is having international consequences. Like, people who previously supported Israel to the hilt are now being like, hey, yeah, no, you cannot do stuff like that. And like, the Israeli government is a fucking shit show. It's a shambles right now. Plus, public opinion is it's divided. Like, you've got police that are fighting with the families of hostages, which Israel keeps killing in the streets of Tel Aviv and Al-Quds, Jerusalem. So, like, this is how countries fall. You open up too many contradictions, you start too much shit, and you stretch yourself too thin, and yeah, you're not going to be able to continue to keep rolling like that. Something's going to have to give. So, in our lifetime, we have a very, very strong chance of referring to Israel as was real. It's not going to be real anymore.
The tit-for-tat attacks have displaced at least 85,000 people on both sides of the border. Those left behind say they live in constant fear of airstrikes.
Every day, the Israelis prove they cannot be trusted and that no one is safe near them. They are targeting civilians. To them, there is no difference between military personnel, children and adults.
We heard a loud explosion but didn't know exactly what happened. I thought maybe rockets were launched from here, but then when the ambulances started arriving, we knew there had been a strike.
The Israeli military has been accused of using white phosphorus as a weapon, an act.
What do you mean accused? They're using it right there. Anytime you see like those fucking white trails coming down, that's white phosphorus. And every time white phosphorus is mentioned, like I have to refer you guys, like go and look up what white phosphorus does to human flesh. It's some pretty gross shit, and they've been using that on civilians. They've been using it on civilians for years.
That's classified as a war crime. It has also stepped up attacks on Hezbollah operation sites and carried out targeted killings of Hezbollah and Hamas leaders.
I got into a fight with the Zionist Israeli on Instagram. I asked if he would still fight for a cause, even if he wasn't sure it was right. He responded, hell yeah, actual lemming. Well, not a lemming. He's just a guy that likes killing, and he doesn't have to be thoroughly convinced that the cause that he's killing for is 100% correct. That's an asshole that just likes to kill people.
Far from the battlefield.
Zionists seem to forget that they tried to invade Lebanon twice, only for Hezbollah and the Communist Party to chase them out. That will happen again, inshallah.
Raising fears that the war on Gaza and battles on the Lebanon border will lead to larger regional conflict.
Also, my hat says class war veteran. I wonder how many discounts it'll get.
Al Jazeera for Inside
And yes, I know it has the AdCom colors on it. I can't be choicy.
Story.
Let's bring in our guests for today's discussion. From London, we're joined by Gilbert Ashkar, who's a professor of development studies and international relations at the University of London School of Oriental and African Studies. From Beirut, we're joined by Hala Jabba, an award-winning journalist and author of Hezbollah, Born with a Vengeance. And from Brussels, we're joined by Elijah Magnier, who's a military and security analyst who's covered conflicts in the Middle East, including Lebanon, for more than 35 years. A warm welcome to you all. Elijah, let's start with you. Just how dangerous a moment is this for the region? Despite all parties saying that they don't want one, could we see Israel and Hezbollah at war again?
I did hear that Greece has finally legalized same-sex marriage. I didn't know it was banned in Greece. I thought the Greeks invented being gay. Oh, well. That just shows how much I know about the history of Europeans. But good, that's good. Greece should like offer gay people like a birthright style trip or something. That's where we all come from. They invented the art of fucking dudes in the ass.
It is extremely dangerous because the Middle East is dealing with an Israeli prime minister who is holding to his seat, wants to remain in power, and is determined, even at the cost of burning all of Gaza, Lebanon, attack Iraq, Syria, whatever keeps him at war to justify his presence and to dismiss an early election in Israel, he's going to enlarge the war as long as...
Yeah, catch me on the Spartan Peninsula. The home, the genesis of BDSM. This guy's voice gets on my nerve. The Greek Communist Party was against it. Yeah, the KKE, they have a lot of like reactionary sentiment. GDF uploaded this, don't they?
To all the dead.
Yeah, like the KKE, I don't fuck with them. Like they're like the fucking Russians. Like they have extremely ridiculously socially conservative views, and they are also economic revisionists as well. So yeah, I really don't fuck with any of the communist parties in Europe.
To all the dads held in captivity by Hamas for over 120 days, we vow to bring you home.
They actually ran that shit during the Super Bowl. Like, imagine if the Congolese government, imagine if one of the groups in the Congo ran an ad stipulating, I don't know, stipulating that genocide in their country needs to be stopped. Imagine if the South African government ran an ad. Well, they wouldn't even allow it. Ran an ad about what's going on in Gaza, or deploring and contradicting that whole plus water bullshit where white farmers are supposedly being massacred by armies of unruly blacks. Like, imagine if that happened. Imagine a shitstorm. Like, these people have nothing to say about a foreign government that's actively involved in a genocide running an ad on American television networks during the Super Bowl. But they take offense to the Black National Anthem. They have a lot to say about that.
To anyone that is protesting or demanding for a ceasefire, let's be honest here. Why aren't you protesting to bring them all home right now?
Why doesn't this guy just keel over from the big ass stroke? Like, have the big one, bro. Like, I'm so sick of seeing you. I'm so sick of seeing your fucking troll face. I'm so sick of seeing your fucking ogre countenance. I'm like, oh, Fetterman mad. Fetterman say, you don't support Israel. He smash your head. You terrorist.
Bring all of these people back home now.
Just a reminder that the Super Bowl was played on Nickelodeon and they had SpongeBob and Patrick covering the game. The Israeli ads were explicitly shown to a kid audience on Nick. We live in hell. We live in hell, and that's one of the demons.
Do you see this thing?
Here's another demon.
Do you know what it is? Why don't you tell everybody? This says...
He can read.
It says bring them home.
I got it on Etsy. Here you have one of the biggest anti-Semites in the world expressing, like, this is how, like, whenever a Zionist talks about, like, how Jewish people would cease to exist if it wasn't for the state of Israel, like, you have one of the world's biggest anti-Semites. Like, you can go through Elon Musk's likes on Twitter, and you can see where he likes racist shit, he likes anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, he likes all sorts of weird, fucked up shit, but now here he is crying crocodile tears for Israelis that have been taken as prisoners of war by the resistance. It just shows that these people are all full of shit. There is no ideological anything behind this. It's just genocide. Genocide and settler colonialism.
The hostages.
Adams, you're complicit in the genocide of Palestinians. I just
here's this fucking Tom.
want to know how many Palestinian children, how many killed Palestinian children will it take for you to call for a ceasefire, Eric Adams? That's all I want to know.
Bring the hostages home.
Oh, wow. Yeah. He speaks with his Massa's voice. Massa say, bring the hostages home. I don't know nothing about no Palestine. I don't know nothing about no Gaza, no West Bank. But I know we must bring the hostages home.
Wow.
Per the New York Times, as talks continued in Cairo toward an Israel-Hamas ceasefire, Israeli media reported on Wednesday that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had told...
Elon is an anti-Semite, but he loves Israel for helping apartheid South Africa. Yeah, the Israelis stole nuclear weapons technology from us, from the United States, and then they gave it to the Moors. And then, funny thing, I bring this up every time, like, apartheid South Africa is mentioned. Right before the ANC took over, right before majority rule was declared, the Boers suddenly decided that, oh, nuclear weapons are bad. Let's take them all apart. And that's what they did. Like, they did not want black people to have access to nuclear weapons. I don't know if they were afraid that we would immediately fire them in Amsterdam and London and Paris or what. But, like, they were not going to let us get hold of no nukes.
Told his negotiators not to take part. The Hostages and Missing Persons Families Forum, the main alliance of the hostages' family members, responded to the reports by protesting outside the homes of Mr. Netanyahu, Yoav Gallant, Israel's defense minister, and Benny Gantz, a member of Israel's war cabinet, on Wednesday evening. This decision amounts, in effect, to sacrificing knowingly all of the hostages' lives.
Wow, no shit.
The hostages and missing...
Netanyahu doesn't give a fuck about any of these hostages. If he gave a fuck about the hostages, he would not be bombing Gaza into a parking lot. Where are the hostages? Have they been spirited away into the United States? Like, do you all remember, like, those, they're holding them here, actually, those stupid kidnap posters? Like, they had them up in Salt Lake City. They had them in Seattle. They had them in San Francisco. I even saw some in St. Louis. As a matter of fact, on my way to work every day, there's a fucking billboard That's like, it says, it has this fucking baby on it, and it says kidnapped by Hamas. I'm like, what is the baby in fucking St. Louis? Like, is there a hostage pipeline? Like, you're killing all of these people. Not a single hostage has been killed by the resistance. All of the hostages that have died have been killed by their own fucking government. All of them.
Person's Families Forum said in a statement. That's what the hostage families actually think. If alleged sexual predator Eric Adams actually bothered to learn or actually cared about the hostages.
He needs to have his milk dud ass in prison. Like, he's facing like corruption allegations. He's got the sex assault thing going on. Like, he's in the big trouble. And instead of like doing the pandering thing, like, this guy's a horrible politician. Well, of course he's a horrible politician. He's a former cop. But like, instead of doing the pandering thing, he's just doubling down and letting himself be used as a tool for the Zionists.
Politicians and celebrities alike have flocked to the safe option with regard to the genocide in Gaza, condemning the October 7th attack, then complete and total radio silence from there on out, while Israel deliberately induces a famine in Gaza and carries out one of the most destructive bombing campaigns in human history. No, there aren't little pictures on their Instagram stories or other virtue signaling when Israel perpetrates a Holocaust that makes October 7th look like a border skirmish. People have rushed to the cause of the hostages. Jerry Seinfeld traveled to Israel. Celebrities adopted hostages. Jason Alexander pretended to be a
I also love when people try to say the resistance killed 1,400 people on October 7th, like, isn't real, wasn't launching hellfire missiles at its own people. Like all of the cars that were at that Nova rave thing, like, they buried all of them. They buried all of them. Remains, everything, because they didn't want people to see, like, how these cars have been shredded. Like, the equipment that the resistance was rolling with on the 7th, they couldn't have done that to all those cars. Those cars were fucking bombed. Or they got hit by tank shells. But they didn't want that fucking egg on their face.
little boy.
This is Ocha.
Breaking news. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has brought forth evidence of Hamas tunnels under the White House in Washington, D.C. Others suspected Hamas activity has included London, Moscow, and Beijing.
He's 9. In fact, he celebrated his 9th birthday days ago as a hostage.
And this shows, like, how the white world, how the West, how the European gaze, like, it values its own people over the tens of thousands of Palestinian kids. Like, where are these celebrities holding up pictures of them on their tablets? Nobody gives a fuck about them. But we know that we have to know the name of every single Israeli hostage. Every single one. How about we learn the names of every single Palestinian killed by Israel since 1947? How about that? Oh no, they're going to teach you that, but they've got plenty of crocodile tears for these little shitlets.
Of Hamas. Today, I will be his voice.
You're very disappointed at Immortal Technique for going soft on the Zionists. I mean, Immortal Technique wasn't necessarily a communist in the first place. He's a conspiracy theorist. He's a conspiracy theorist. You need to follow Loki. He's good.
Hi, I'm Ohad. I'm 9 years old.
Let me ask you this. Do celebrities and politicians actually care about the hostages? Why don't they call for a ceasefire? After all, it was during the cessation of hostilities, a ceasefire, a week-long ceasefire, in November that Hamas released 110 hostages. Since then, they've rescued 3 and killed 3, at least, since Hamas says that a good amount of them have been killed by Israel bombing. One option actually bears results. So then why aren't people who are championing the cause of the hostages calling for a ceasefire? Per the Times of Israel.
Also, I love this, like, Israel is basically a garrison state. Like, you got Fetterman, he has these things that they look like basically dog tags, and they say bring them home. Like, it shows like this whole country is nothing but an armed camp. Like, people are acting like Israel is just some soft little country that, like no. Every adult in this country has military training. Every single adult has military training. You could be in fucking Tel Aviv or Rishon LeZion and see people walking around with fucking with fucking AR-15s slung over their shoulders, sitting drinking at the bar. Alcohol and guns don't mix. Maybe that's why. I wonder what the mass shooting rate is in Israel. It reminds me of how American media will go crazy over the disappearance of an affluent white child, but doesn't give a shit about all the black and indigenous children who are kidnapped, murdered, and trafficked. Exactly.
It is believed that 130 hostages abducted by Hamas on October 7th remain in Gaza. Not all of them alive. After 105 civilians were released from captivity during a week-long truce in late November, and 4 hostages were released prior to that. The IDF has confirmed the deaths of 29 of those still held by Hamas, citing new intelligence.
Oh, wow. Who killed them?
Intelligence and findings obtained by troops operating in Gaza. So the longer this goes on without a ceasefire in place, the more hostages will die?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't Zionists want a ceasefire then? Why would Zionists, in effect...
Because they're willing to sacrifice their own people, their own elderly, their own children, their own mothers, their own fathers, for the possible realization of this greater Israel bullshit.
Support keeping the...
I am recovering from the flu, actually. You have a good ear for the sniffles.
Hostages inside Gaza, rather than negotiating to release them. Why keep them inside Gaza?
And that's like, why would you blow up all of those apartment blocks? Like, what purpose does that serve? What military assets are in these apartment blocks? Their goal is to make Gaza uninhabitable. They want to make Gaza uninhabitable so that they could, like, they already have settlers in certain parts of this territory. They want to try to turn it into fucking New Dubai. Like, I've seen AI-generated images shared by Israelis on Instagram and on Twitter.
Why keep them inside Gaza, where they are sitting under one of the most destructive bombing campaigns ever recorded? Robert Pape told the Financial Times earlier in the month, between 1942 and 1945, the Allies bombed 51 German towns and cities, destroying some 40 to 50% of the urban areas there. This comprised some 10% of all the buildings in all of Germany. This compared to 33% of buildings across Gaza that have been totally destroyed. In Iraq, as reported by the Associated Press on December 22nd, during the 2014 to 2017 campaign to defeat the Islamic State in Iraq, the U.S.-led coalition carried out nearly 15,000 strikes across the country.
Like, that's the thing. Like, it's different. Like, when I've never experienced the bombing, nor has anybody in my chat, because we're in America or we're in Europe, and like, we don't routinely have airplanes streaking across our skies, dropping bombs. But like, do y'all have any idea, like, what bombings do to the soil? Like, I don't know how old these buildings are, but there's all sorts of toxic chemicals in these buildings. Like, check out 9/11. Okay, after 9/11, like, you had the death toll on the day itself, right? Just under 3,000 people, if I recall correctly. But you have thousands more first responders, cops, people that were in the debris zone, that were inhaling this shit. Like, you have thousands of people. People are still dying from 9/11 because of all that shit that came out of those buildings. Now, so imagine what this is doing to Gaza. Like, Gaza is going to now be filled with carcinogenic chemicals because of all of the shit that came out of the bombs and all of the shit that's coming out of these buildings that are being violently destroyed. All that shit's going into air. People are going to be blinded. People's lungs are going to be bruised. And they have destroyed pretty much every hospital in the area. So, yeah. And generational trauma, I saw something the other day on Twitter about, like, generational trauma being, like, genetic and being handed down from Holocaust survivors to their great-grandchildren. So these people that are going through this stuff, like a baby that's coming up in Gaza now, if it survives, that baby's great-great-great-great-great-grandkids are going to have, like, genetic markers of the trauma that they're going through right now.
By comparison, the Israeli military said they conducted 22,000 strikes.
22,000 strikes on a strip of land smaller than most American cities. A strip of land smaller than most American cities cannot absorb 22,000 airstrikes. And how many bombs do you think they dropped? They're not just going to drop one bomb. They're going to come in and like several bombs for each strike.
In the last week. Why would they want them in an area where Israel has induced a famine? Why do they respond, bring the hostages home, when we call for a ceasefire, when they can only be brought home with a ceasefire?
Because they're stupid and they don't realize what they're agitating for. They agitate for nothing but destruction and genocide. Like, they can't just come out and say, yes, we want to remove everybody from Gaza, although several Israelis have been caught saying that. But in America, they act like they're somewhat more civilized. But yeah, that's essentially all that they're saying. Let's see what y'all about to show me in chat. The allegation that the IDF engages in sexual violence against Palestinian children is another blood libel. Well, we know that's a lie. Here's some Israeli national heroes saying that they engaged in this behavior.
טנטור היה כפר עשיר, בתים יפים, גרים כמו אירופאים, אתה יודע, וגם אנשים היו לבושות ויפה, וזה באמת היה כפר אחד, אנס שם איזה ילדה בת 16, משהו כזה, אתה מבין? אבל זה מכוער מאוד, היה לנו בחור אחד ונפטר, הוא היה פרא אדם.
This guy is smiling and laughing while he's characterizing and describing all of this shit.
הוא לקח פשוט מאוד.
He put people in a cage and killed them.
ורצח אותם בתוך המכלאות. בתוך המכלאות, הם היו במכלאות.
He's just talking about this shit like he's talking about the weather.
אתה יודע, חוטי ברזל כאלה, עגולים כאלה, אספו כל הגברים. הם יושבים שם, כולם, על הרצפה.
This is the true face of Zionism. These are the guys who built Israel. This guy herded Palestinian dudes into a fucking cage and then mowed them down with a machine gun. Pure evil. But this is what Israel is built on. Yeah, he does have a very unsettling smile and manner of discussion. I wouldn't want to be alone in a room with this guy, and he's like 100 years old. He just gives me the creeps. And you didn't stop this guy? You didn't do anything to try to stop this guy? I'm pretty sure you know that murdering unarmed people that are in a cage is a war crime. Even if it wasn't a war crime, it's still a fucking horrible thing to do, and you did nothing. Now here you are, 80 years later, talking about it. They're chasing people with flamethrowers now.
זה היה משהו זוועתי, וזה אסור לספר, אני לא אדבר על זה, כי זה יכול להיות סקנדל שלם.
Well, what the fuck is funny? You're talking about people being burned to death. You're talking about people being innocent fucking people being mown down with machine guns. What the fuck are you laughing for? I don't see anything funny. What's funny?
אני לא רוצה לדבר על זה, וזהו.
You don't want to talk about it, but you just did talk about it.
3-4 חודשים הראשונים הייתי רוצח.
מה זה אומר?
אני לא לקחתי שבויים. בזמן קרב, אם מישהו ירים ידיים, משהו כזה, לא לקחתי שבויים. זה.
Oh, you're so traumatized. Were you traumatized when you were doing it? Usually, people don't do things that are going to traumatize them.
זה אותי עד כדי כך, לא יכלתי לעבור לסדר היום. אם היה עומדת כיתה של זה עם ידיים למעלה, אז באותו יום הייתי רואה אותה.
This is sick. This guy's just casually talking about murdering little kids.
הייתי קוצר את כולם עד כדי כך.
כמה אתה חושב אנשים הרגת ככה?
לא ספרתי. לא יכול.
If the USSR and the Eastern Bloc still existed when this Israel-Gaza shit be happening, the USSR was one of the first countries to recognize Israel. Granted, they later reversed it after Israel started doing its fuck shit, but like the USSR wouldn't give a fuck. Like the revisionist USSR that was around in the 70s and 80s, they wouldn't give a shit. Why would they give... Bruh. Yes, it would still be happening. It happened when the USSR was still around.
לדעת בחיי. היה לי מקלע עם 250 כדורים. תראה, יריתי, נלחמתי כולם. לא יכול לספור.
Stalin was a politician and a pragmatist more than anything. So I don't think he would sacrifice Soviet interests for Palestinians, though.
מכל הכפרים הערבים, אף אחד מהם לא נלחם. כמעט. שהם לא היה להם, גם נשק לא היה להם. מי נתן להם נשק? הם לא חשבו שהם בורחים להרבה זמן, הם לא חשבו שהם לא יחזרו, אף אחד גם לא העלה על דעתו, שעם שלם לא יחזור. כן? הארץ לא הייתה ריקה, כמו שסיפרו לי בילדותי. כן? בילדותנו סיפרו לנו כל מיני סיפורים, כל מיני מעשיות. הארץ לא הייתה ריקה אף פעם. אני באתי לספר על האנשים האלה שברחו ולא חזרו לאדמתם, כן? שזה פעם ראשונה בהיסטוריה של אלפי שנים שככה הכפריים האלה נעלמו. גם חלק גירשנו, ירינו והם ברחו לעזה. היו צריכים כיתה כאן, כיתה כאן, כיתה שם, יורים באוויר אפילו לא עליהם או עליהם, והם היו בורחים כבר. הם לא היה להם מה...
Israel also has the lovely habit of fucking over the people that support it. Like, it fucked the British over, it fucked the Americans over. Like, Israel is a supremely ungrateful motherfucker.
Well, just a reminder of our breaking story here on BBC News, and that is that in the past few minutes, Russia's prison authorities have announced that the leading Kremlin critic, Alexei Navalny, has died.
I wonder how he died.
Statement online said that Mr. Navalny had
did he get some of Putin's tea?
Felt poorly after a walk and lost consciousness soon afterwards. It added that doctors had arrived straight away, but that all attempts at resuscitation had failed. Now, details are still coming in, and I'm still joined by my colleague Vitaly Shevchenko. Vitaly, I just wanted to bring this in because we've just heard from Mr. Navalny.
He died of rare bullet brain disease. Yeah, but like, why would they do that now, though? Like, he's been locked up for a bit, hasn't he? Like, why would they wait until, like, all the eyes of the world are on Russia and people are looking for any reason to attack Russia to kill one of the most prominent opposition leaders? It doesn't make any sense. They could have had, like, they've had years to whack this dude.
Navalny's press secretary, who is saying that she has no confirmation at the moment of Mr. Navalny's death. But I assume that we should take what the Russian authorities are saying as fairly confirmed news.
I'd be highly surprised if what's being reported by this official source were to be untrue. It's true that they have a certain track record of...
Navalny is a fascist. That's why liberals love him. Yeah, like, he not a big fan of migrants. He compares them to cockroaches, and I think he, like, pantomimed swatting migrants with a fly swatter or something in his television studio once, but yeah.
Of being economical with the truth, certain Russian official sources, but clearly this is not a matter they would misreport. Now, given that he was in jail and given that that particular prison is so remote, so far up in the north, it's obviously very difficult to...
Man, his ass in the gulag.
...to ascertain what exactly happened to Mr. Navalny, if he's dead, what exactly caused...
He has died. There will be no further attention to matter. Navalny has died. How he died, we don't know. He had weak bones.
His death. We know that the conditions under which he was held are pretty tough, and he had complained about them repeatedly.
Yeah, honestly, I would rather them just fucking off me before taking me to a place like this. This doesn't look... No. I'm not built for this.
Had been put in what's known as the punishment cell on numerous occasions. His physical appearance since his incarceration in 2021, of course, it's suffered. He was looking gaunt and thin in his video appearances from from the jail that he was being kept. That tells us that, of course, there are reasons to believe that his health was in danger in the Russian jail.
For many people who are just coming to this story, they may know the name Alexei Navalny. They know that he was a prominent critic of the Kremlin, a thorn in Vladimir Putin's side, but they perhaps don't know enough about why. He was the leader of an anti-corruption movement in Russia, someone who had a lot of support in the country as well as critics. Can you just tell our viewers a little bit more about how significant he was and why he was such a problem to Vladimir Putin?
Well, I think we have to start by saying that Russian media space and the way Russian politics operates, it's been very restrictive for years. So for Mr. Navalny, it's always been an uphill struggle to gain support within Russia. He was denied access to the media. It was really difficult for him to campaign and rally. And yet, despite all that, his investigative videos that he posted online...
Putin didn't even want to, name this guy. Putin, symbolically or superstitiously, never uttered Navalny's name, calling him instead that character, the aforementioned citizen, a sick man, and a protege of U.S. intelligence agencies. That's kind of funny. Navalny coined characterizations that became instant memes. The ruling United Russia Party was a party of crooks and thieves. Putin, a grandpa in the bunker. Huh. He was whipped by Cossacks in 2016. He almost lost an eye after being doused with the green chemical in 2017. And he had severe swelling after a 2019 arrest that he said was caused by a poison. Oof. Beginning in the late 2000s, Navalny used racial slurs when describing ethnic Georgians, called for the deportation of Muslim migrant workers, and delivered speeches at Russian marches, annual rallies of far-right nationalists, white supremacists, and neo-Nazis. Oh, wow, what a charming old man.
Grayson Nolan, 11.
Hey, look, it's Gav.
Watches Mr. Beast videos.
Cossacks with whips is a strong Russian tradition. You didn't know that?
Every day.
Nate, you quit your security job. I hope you have another one lined up. Otherwise, you're going to be hungry for a little bit.
At his home in West Memphis, while his favourite video is the one where the Beast crew spends 7 days at sea because they had to survive and build shelters on a raft, and he had all of his friends and they met a little seagull, something else draws him to the channel. I like him because he's super nice and helps people and gives them money, says Nolan, who also has a YouTube channel. So this is Mr. Beast's brand image through the eyes of an 11-year-old boy who probably wants to be like Mr. Beast, that he is a good person who gives people money. If there is one thing this Z-list British YouTuber is known for, it's hating on Mr. Beast. Now, I'm literally the last principled leftist YouTuber in that I called out Mr. Beast before.
Oh, really, Kev? I'm glad he has the British arrogance down pat, even though he's Irish. He's lived in the UK. I'm glad he has the British arrogance down.
Everyone. I called him out.
Nobody on YouTube is as principled as I am.
Nearly 4 years ago, making a video about how he exploits poverty for content. And I got loads of backlash about that video until I think 2022, where it actually gained a lot of traction and people...
You can just look at this motherfucker and tell he's a creep, though. I would not trust this man. He looks like a fucking used car salesman.
Started agreeing with me, and then since the start of 2023... Yeah.
Did anybody hear about the mass shootings at Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl? It wasn't a game, it was a parade. It's celebrating their victory over the 49ers. But yeah, I saw that. America's a sick society. Healthy societies do not have people running around just blowing people's brains out for no reason. So, yeah. Socialism will stop mass shootings. It won't take guns away. It will actually give guns to the people, but it will remove the alienation factor that makes young men think that going out and killing random people is somehow going to solve their various problems or an acceptable way to express your rage.
Yeah, like loads of people hate this guy now. I'm like that scene from Back to the Future where Marty McFly like inspires the music of Chuck Berry, saying like your kids are gonna love it. Like that is how much of a visionary I am. So I can't wait for you guys to see my Taylor Swift video coming out at the weekend, where I might have some criticism of Taylor Swift as well. But going back to Jimmy Beast, it's been well known for a while he doesn't treat his workers that well. But a lot
no shit.
A lot of the internet came to his defense when previous editors came out and said, you know, doesn't pay us well, doesn't treat us well, saying it's just an editor who's been scorned and is looking for clout. Well, we're putting that to rest now.
I hate critical, but I hate depends, mister. See, I don't pay any attention to any of these fucking white people. I read books. Read books. Read books. Stop paying attention to these fucking white people. Read books. Study. Watch me. Watch me talk about the fucking books I read. Like Taylor Swift, Mr. Beast, like who the fuck are these people? What do they contribute to the revolutionary process? How do they help black people? Like that's what I'm concerned about. What the fuck has Taylor Swift ever done for my people? What the fuck is Kelsey or I don't give a fuck. I should be obliged to give a fuck. Some a sister on Twitter said really good thing the other day. She said that like Taylor Swift is only popular amongst white people. Like Madonna, Lady Gaga, like they're actually popular beyond white audiences. Like only white people give a shit about Taylor Swift. I don't give a fuck about Taylor Swift. Like Madonna, she had appeal to black people. Taylor Day, like all of these fucking white, Shell, fucking Pink. Okay, like she's been on the R&B charts every time she puts shit out. But Taylor Swift, like, who cares? Nobody gives a fuck.
Now, because a new Time profile on Mr. Beast, you know,
and that's why I'm the best Maoist. I don't get distracted by white people.
one of these big puff pieces actually did some digging and found out that, yeah, Mr. Beast doesn't treat his work as well. And you're probably going to be pretty staggered about how seemingly very dangerous it is to work on a Mr. Beast YouTube video because they don't.
I actually went off on somebody at DSA because they called me a celebrity. I'm like, yeah, I'm a pretty decently known amongst the left online Maoist, but I'm not a fucking celebrity.
Don't take safety precautions even when using trains and explosives. So in Mr. Beast's pursuit of being the most wholesome
Sexy Red is from St. Louis, yes.
Keanu guy of all time, he just you know, treats his workers terribly and doesn't put proper safety protocols in. Is he just another greedy capitalist YouTuber who is making money off the backs of others' labor? I mean, in my opinion, that's always been the case. I think it's pretty indisputable that at least plays a part in it. And also, don't worry, if you thought there was somewhere to complain to HR, which traditionally operates as an arm of defense for the company, well, don't worry, that's pretty much run by his mother. So you're going to get a nice...
He has his mom that's in charge of HR. Oh, my God. This guy's going to kill somebody. This guy's going to kill somebody one day. Somebody's going to die because of Mr. Beast one day.
Insight into the world of Jimmy Beast here. And yeah, my attempts to cancel Beast so far haven't worked as well as I thought, although I think I've changed the conversation for some people. Like these days, you can even show your tax folder.
Yeah, Madonna. Madonna not only supports Israel, but she also has a habit of adopting kids from Africa, trying to turn them into Italians. That's no good. BRG does Squid Game video drop when? When the moon flies backwards in the sky. When the oceans dry up. Well, you know what? I'm going to stop saying that because that might happen in my lifetime.
On a live stream, and people will still defend.
Stop asking for better wages, or I'm going to tell my mom on you.
So, I guess no one can get cancelled these days. But yeah, all of that coming up for you today, and what we're going to do is just...
Did this motherfucker honestly just link one of my own? Bruh. How do you all have my Why do you all have my tweets like bookmarked and saved so that you can come in my... Bruh, y'all are funny.
Let's go through the article and I'll give you my thoughts. Now, just to outline basically my history.
I'll give you my thoughts.
Mr. Beast a bit more. I made a lot of videos talking about him in terms of his content generally. Like, I have made a few videos talking about his workers, but not really because that's not as public information. So basically with my previous critiques of Beastie Boy.
Okay, so first off, anytime you have a white person who is trying to generate content off of black people who are suffering in Africa because of shit that white people have done, that's a no-no. Like, how can white people help Africa? White people can help Africa by getting the fuck out of Africa. That's how you can help Africa, by getting the fuck out of Africa. But you have all of these white so-called content creators and philanthropists and missionaries that are going, using our people, using people who look like me as fucking cash cows or as souls to be converted to their fucking woo bullshit. Like, it's disgusting. It's just as exploitative as going and whipping everybody with the rhinoceros hide whip because they don't get the rubber out of the tree in time fast enough for you. Avoid all white people who have videos like this. You're going to Africa teaching the people how to get water as if we didn't know how to get water and sate our thirst before you bastards came and stole us for slaves. Come the fuck on.
Analyzed how he exploited poverty for content, like going to rural African villages, using his like food banks for like these very, very, I'd say not very tasteful videos where he talks to some of the people who need the food, and I think it comes across as very exploitative. And obviously he got a lot of pushback.
Well, no shit.
For stuff like, you know, helping people with eye surgery and these weird AI thumbnails, which don't resemble anything that's actually in the video. And I guess the main thing for a lot of people, and especially for me, is, you know, he's obviously a horrible symptom of our capitalist system that he even exists in the first place, like making fame and clout and money off doing these weird charity stunts, which obviously can only happen because the system is fundamentally broken. But also just, you know, is this guy sincere? Now, if you're helping...
No, he's not sincere.
Run out of money or ideas, Jimmy Donaldson, who has been on YouTube for 12 years, has grown his channel almost exclusively on wholesome fare. Ask him how he thinks he got so successful, and he has a simple answer. He just worked harder than anyone else.
Yeah, typical fucking bourgeois CEO.
It's a never-ending treadmill for the content, obviously. It's brutal, you're always on, and it's a lot of pressure. And this whole system is based around 200 million people just magically showing up and watching my next video. So yeah, it's Mr. Beast working harder than everyone else. It's, you know, no one who works with him, not his camera guy, not the people who edits the videos, not the people who design the thumbnails. It's Mr. Beast, you know. He works harder than anyone else. And by the way, I don't think he doesn't work, like, hard.
It's not okay to be part Italian. I wish Haile Selassie was more brutal to you.
Whatever that looks like for a millionaire YouTuber.
What the fuck is wrong with y'all? Why are you all so abusive and mean to each other?
I'm sure he's heavily involved in everything. He seems like, you know, a perfectionist with his content. But yeah, you're probably starting to see already.
This guy, well, honestly, all white people are hell to work for, but this guy sounds like particular hell to work for. I'm sorry. I would have to, like, I would have to try and fail to not wrap my hands around this dude's neck.
That, he doesn't view his success as a result of others, even though his whole channel has always been a collaborative effort. Someone like Chris Tyson has been on Mr. Beast videos for years and years and years. So it wasn't Chris or any of your friends who helped you, it was just you. I'm so surprised the work environment is toxic. Donaldson is not your usual entrepreneur. For one, he's happy to talk about how much revenue he brings in.
Jesus Christ. Okay. So this guy's handling $600 million to $700 million a year. But he claims not to be rich. How the fuck do you... This just shows like how white people have radically different conceptions of wealth than black people do. Like, bro, like, I've been so broke, I can't even afford to get bus fare across town when I was riding the bus, okay? That's how broke I've been. Like, I don't even have $7 in my wallet. And this motherfucker is claiming that he's not rich and he touches $600 million a year, bruh. There have been times in my life, and I guarantee you in almost every other working class black person's life, where $60 feels like $600 million. This just shows that these people live on a radically different planet than the rest of us.
$600 to $700 million a year, which is absolutely insane. He claims not to be rich. Not right now. I'm not naive. Maybe one day. But right now, whatever we make, we reinvest. He spends lavishly on every video, sometimes shooting as much as 12,000 hours of footage for a 50-minute clip. Each video does a couple million in ad revenue and a couple million in brand deals. I've reinvested everything to the point of you could claim stupidity, just believing we would succeed, and it's worked out. So, do I believe that he's not a rich man? Do I believe he hasn't given himself a couple mil off that 700 million? Like, come on, man. Like, seriously? Like, if you seriously are sticking that all back into your YouTube channel, maybe you're not generationally...
Mr. Beast was working harder when he paid that billboard saying, subscribe to PewDiePie. Be put up in mass. You know what? I'm going to have to hire one of you all who actually, like, knows all of this lore and drama around this shit.
Wealthy yet. But to claim that your YouTube success is just because of you and you're not rich. Like, this guy lives in a...
Direct $600 million of capital a year and is just a pauper.
Fantasy land. And of course he does. He started doing this when he was like 17. He has no semblance of what it is to be normal. If you don't think you're rich when your YouTube channel makes $700 million in a year, you're just insanely delusional. So now let's get into the start of the coverage about worker exploitation. Being different cuts both ways. Time spoke to a dozen former Mr. Beast employees, and while all admire Donaldson and his vision,
cult,
they found the company's attention to detail slipped when it came to adhering to safety norms or maintaining a healthy work culture.
Cult, slave plantation, cult.
Many had signed NDAs and would not go on record for fear of angering a powerful company.
Cult, plantation, cult.
Which is a good sign, but several producers mentioned pushback around hiring experts for stunts. They'd always ask...
Cult.
Ask us, well, why, says Troy Guthrie, who believes he was let go from Mr. Beast because he kept agitating for safety.
Cult.
Guthrie worked on a global athletics contestant video where a few contestants were injured and he was distressed at the construction of the sets.
Slave plantation.
After the shoot, as the friends of friends were cleaning up, he says one of the huge doors contestants had to run between blew over. A Mr. Beast spokesperson said the company has never let anyone go for asking about safety. On-set medics promptly addressed any injuries that arose during filming, and a safety cord kept the door secured when it came off its track. But don't worry, gets better. Scott Brown, a creative producer who worked for Mr. Beast from March 2023 to August 23, says that in order to move fast at Mr. Beast, they view safety as like being overly cautious.
Okay, I can already predict this. Somebody's going to die fucking with this dude. Somebody is going to die fucking with Mr. Beast's slave plantation death cult. And it's going to be a fucking shit show. God, this is why I don't gas up these fucking nutty ass, weird ass white people. Because, like, they don't care. They don't give a fuck about anybody but themselves. Somebody apparently did die, according to Potato Salad God, who knows all about the internet. I did not know. I told you, I do not follow these people. I do not care about these people. Cult, slave plantation, cult, slave plantation. This is fucking...
Or a weakness.
This is fucking wild. So somebody did die. Link me to an article. I want to see that. I don't want to see anybody die, of course, but I want to read about the circumstances leading to the death.
He helped produce the Train vs. Giant Pit video and believed the safety procedures were insufficient. When he suggested using OSHA protocols for the pit's considerable drop, I was told, we don't need to worry about that, he says. Other producers say they were asked to work with explosives, fast cars, and heavy machinery with little training and on very little notice. Let's just say, as an 18-year-old, says Jay Neo, who moved to Greenville from the UK to help with the creative team, it felt weird to be writing on the board days without an accident that needed to be updated every day. A spokesperson for Mr. Beast did not respond to an inquiry about the board, but said safety is incredibly important and taken very seriously. Experienced professionals tailored to the needs of the production are on every set. The company is OSHA compliant. Well, this lack of safety, of course, has been a recipe.
Thank you, Potato Salad God. Oh, you little bitch. I ought to ban you.
For success in that Mr. Beast has become incredibly wealthy, famous, biggest YouTuber on the platform. But yeah, would you like to work on a set which is run by 18 to 22-year-olds driving really fast cars very fast and blowing stuff up? Do you think that is a good environment to work in? And do you think it says a lot about Mr. Beast in that they see it as a weakness if you try and be safe?
One day, Potato Salad God, you're going to be kneeling. Your head is going to be on a block, maybe a tree stump, perhaps. And there's going to be a guy with a hood standing over you with a very large axe. and you will be given the opportunity to say your last words, and then that very large axe is going to come down and sever your fucking empty head. Why? Because of what you just did.
And also, they might fire you if you bring this up. I thought good guy wholesome Mr. Beast was good because he gave people money. And sometimes he goes to a poor sub-Saharan African country and makes a video about it. That's good, actually. But treating workers well, I guess that's a bit, beyond that. Because, as we all know, the success is down to Mr. Beast. No one helped him. Doesn't make money off the backs of his employees. They're not responsible for his success. Yeah, it's just Mr. Beast running around driving fast cars and blowing stuff up. And moving on.
Yeah, well, to truly enter my Pol Pot arc, I have to take my glasses off. And if I take my glasses off, I can't see shit.
Newly hired producers are given housing, good salary, and 3 months in which to prove themselves.
Cult. They give you a house to live in, and then if you fuck up, they can kick you out of the fucking house.
The dozen former employees time interviewed, most had no problem with Donald.
And he's taking advantage of these young people, like, who have never had a real job before. Like, this is not a fucking, no. This is not a job. This is a cult. 3 months in which to prove yourselves, and housing. There's a lot of bullying. It's toxic. I mean, these people are usually just out of fucking high school. Of course it is. This is an atrocious fucking. This is an atrocious plus a fucking thing to do. It sounds like a left org.
But described.
It sounds like the fucking Red Guards. That's what it sounds like. Not the OG Red Guards from China, like the American Red Guards. The people of Pighead fame.
A company culture that was toxic with a lot of bullying. People are
How do you prove yourself to this guy? I don't know. Maybe he wants him to suck his dick.
Experiencing enormous amounts of stress. There's a lot of fear that you can be fired at any moment, says Brown, who left to work for a company in LA. And because clear feedback isn't given, it's hard to know whether that's going to happen. Guthrie says he was grateful for the opportunity, but Mr. Beast was one of the weirdest experiences I've ever been through. A spokesperson for Mr. Beast says the company has
I think Caleb Moppet is jealous of that.
High standards for performance.
Like, Caleb Moppet is probably watching this shit, taking notes.
Not everyone is best suited for the work. Yeah, any of you guys who've worked shitty jobs in corporate land have heard that last one. The company has high standards for performance, and not everyone is best suited for this work, which means the company is very, very toxic, and if you speak out, we'll fire you, basically. And I'm guessing most people who work for Mr. Beast aren't in a union either, but he gives you a house.
I don't think anybody's in a union.
For 3 months, and maybe he'll kick you out if you complain about bullying. Again, like, we've all worked in terrible places where the boss was a tyrant, or co-workers were terrible, or middle managers were like the Stasi reporting us to the higher-ups or saying one bad thing about the company. So yeah, does it surprise me at all? No. Does it surprise me that the guy who absolutely simps after Elon Musk thinks his success is down to his own individual brilliance?
I actually feel good. I'm going back to work tomorrow. I'm just coughing.
Do I think he is someone who probably treats his workers well? His hero Elon treats his workers like trash. So again, mini Elon, who wants to be president one day, is also seemingly guilty based on a dozen interviews of people who spoke to Time. So yeah, good guy Mr. Beast being a bad boss and the company being shitty to work for. I wish this would surprise me, but I'm sure there'll be people defending him in the comments that, these people...
Yeah, because people have developed parasocial attachment to these people who don't even know they exist. Mr. Beast is going to get the Pinkertons if someone tries to unionize.
So this is...
Iowa Republican files bill to ban Satanism on state property. Ooh.
It's a story that sounds remarkably similar to the last story I just told you, but this time it takes place in, where else? Iowa. Because a Republican in Iowa...
Honestly, Missouri needs to take Iowa over until we find out what's going on. Iowa does not need to be an independent state by itself.
Iowa this week.
They've got too much weird shit going on up there. Just a bit off topic, Shrek should be one of the major icons for anti-fascism.
Filed her own bill.
He's wearing a swastika donkey. Take care of him.
To ban satanic displays or the practice of Satanism on state property.
What happens to do one thing and one thing only, and that's kill fascists.
I know we just talked about this in Arizona, but
yes, I know that was a horrible Scottish accent. I'm not Scottish.
In Iowa, they are now trying to go even further. And again, why are they doing this? It's probably because just a couple months ago, there was a satanic display in the Capitol building, and it caused such a havoc.
How dare you call me a donkey, a fucking fascist donkey? I fought Hitler. I busted Hitler's skull.
Because so many right-wing, gentle people could not...
Right, now I'm going to be doing that fucked up accent for the rest of the night. Thank you.
Not handle the idea of a non-Christian display, that they flipped the hell out, and another dude came in and vandalized the display. So I'm going to show you this bill. because there's a lot going on here. Here we go. There we go. Let's go through this.
These people don't even know what Satanism is. Like, if I recall correctly, there's like 4 or 5 different tranches of it, and like these people don't study Satanism. They just see it, it's an anti-Christian. So they probably consider Wicca, they probably consider hoodoo, they probably consider voodoo, they probably consider all of these. Well, I would consider Wicca a traditional practice, but they would consider any like earth-based form of magic with a K, to be Satanism. So these people are ignorant, and like I keep saying, these people should not be allowed to make laws for the rest of us. They're barbarians. They don't know what they're doing.
Bit by bit.
Communists are like onions, donkey.
This is about satanic displays or the practice of Satanism on state property. Let's read through this because there's a lot going on here. I should tell you one other thing. This is sponsored by State Representative Sandy Salmon.
Sandy Salmon. Yeah. I could, you could like, sometimes you can just look at a person and tell like that they're fucked in the head. Like, it's just this fucking uncomfortable looking, rough spun tweed jacket, the glasses, the smirk that she's wearing, her pudding-like face, and this old church lady haircut. Like, I could tell this lady is gonna be on some fuck shit.
We'll talk about her in a bit, but she's the culprit here. Okay, back to her bill, and we'll talk about these bits one by one. Okay, the state or any political subdivision of the state shall not recognize organizations or individuals who refer to Satan as a deity, worship Satan, or...
I don't think Satanists refer to Satan as a deity, though, and I don't think they worship him either.
Who reference Satan or Satanism as part of the organization's or individual's religious practice as an establishment of religion, which already gets to the heart of religious freedom. Like, the government is forbidden from restricting rights from people on the basis of their religious beliefs. That
very true
applies to Satanists and atheists and Muslims and Christians. By not recognizing them, the Iowa government here would effectively be discriminating on the basis of faith. That's illegal. So what are we even doing here? It is also weird.
She's throwing red meat to her base. That's what she's doing. She knows that this shit isn't going to pass, and she knows that if it does pass, the courts are going to shoot it down because it's unconstitutional. Like, you cannot make a law privileging one religion or even banning one religion. Like, she's doing this with Satanism, but another asshole might want to do this with Islam. Somebody might even want to do this with Judaism, for fuck's sake. Like, you cannot do shit like this. And do these Christians ever do what the Bible say? No. No, because if they did, they would not be up here trying to penalize and harass other people. They would be somewhere feeding the poor and clothing the naked and ministering to the needs of the hungry. Like, I work at a literal homeless shelter. I see real Christians all the time. People who don't come in with their phones to be like, hey, look, I'm feeding the homeless. They come in, they ask us what we need, and they bring it. That's a good Christian. There are good Christians that exist that try to live as Christ intended. But you have most American Christians that worship money instead of Jesus Christ, and they engage in a bunch of stupid shit like this. Like, what? Where does it say anywhere in the Bible that this is something that should be done?
To see Salmon go after groups that refer to Satan as a deity or who reference Satan as part of their faith, because you know who that includes? Christians. They're the ones who think Satan is a fallen angel. They're the ones who make constant references to Satan in all their fire and brimstone sermons. No one believes in Satan more than like white evangelical Christians and Southern Baptists and Catholics. Like, so what are we doing? Why are you mad about people who reference Satan? Because if you actually could ban them and the state can't recognize them, this hurts Christians, not like Satanists who don't actually believe in Satan. So that's messed up. Let's keep going down this bill.
LaVeyan Satanism is just edgy, individualist atheism. Christian fundamentalists are stupid. That is true.
Displays, symbols, or the practice of satanic worship shall not be allowed on public property, in public schools, on property owned by public schools, or on any property owned by the state or its...
Well, okay, what fucking Satanist organization is going to go and try to put a fucking... put something like that at a public school? Like, who has time and money for that?
Political subdivisions. It's a word salad. I think this is in response to...
Oh my God. I've read ahead. I always did that in school. I read ahead. Any act of satanic practice or worship that involves the ending of a life or the shedding of its blood, whether the sacrifice be an animal or human, is prohibited. Did I think that people are actually going out into the woods and like doing fucking human sacrifices or something?
Those good several places, like a goat and then a 15-year-old. I don't know. It's religious reasons. Number 4 here on this list, a violation of those subsections is a criminal offense.
This is unconstitutional. This is not going to be allowed to be a law.
Subject to prosecution under the laws of the state. Like, if anyone does this stuff, they want to go after them in court, and that should be horrifying too.
It's not horrifying to me because the shit's not going to pass.
We know.
Somebody brought up Immortal Technique earlier. I like this guy more. This is low-key.
Britain has a role in Israel, but Israel has a role in Britain. Pro-Israel forces currently have control of NHS, Foreign Office, Home Office, and Ministry of Defence data, your data. Nigel Farage liked to talk about taking back control, but he wouldn't say anything about Israeli intelligence companies taking control of key functions of our intelligence and police services. He wouldn't say anything about the 12,000 US soldiers in this country. They don't want to take back control. They want to control you. What about Rishi Sunak, our Prime Minister? Well, his family company, Infosys, which was founded by his father-in-law and that his wife still has £500 million worth of shares in, has many Israeli subsidiaries and hundreds of employees within Israel. Infosys signed a memorandum of understanding with the State of Israel in 2012 to develop relations and deepen cooperation. Infosys, which works on collecting biometric data, has also had a director until recently who was a veteran of Israeli military intelligence unit 8200, Yuri Levine. Let's not forget that 44 whistleblowers from within Unit 8200 came out and said that this unit is surveilling the Palestinians to build compromat against them and blackmailing them with that information.
It's funny, like he mentioned this. Compromat basically means like shit that if released could lead to bad things happening to you. People act like they are so concerned about the well-being of gay Palestinians. Did you know that Israeli like intelligence would actually stalk and take pictures of queer Palestinians and try to use it to blackmail them, to try to turn them into informers on their own people? Because yes, Gaza and the West Bank are extremely conservative societies, but there are no bands of armed men going around murdering queer people in Palestine. But yeah, it's an extremely conservative society. So what Israel does is they like take photographs and records queer Palestinians going about their day, engaging with their lovers and whatnot, and actually uses this to try to turn these people into snitches. So if there's anybody that's hurting gay or lesbian or transgender Palestinians, it's Israel.
Unit 8200. Don't forget that name, because the very company that the British police use to hack phones in this country is Celebrite. This is an Israeli intelligence company which is headed by alumni of Unit 8200 in the Israeli military. The CEO of Celebrite has claimed that they have remote control access to all of the information procured through their products. The British police not only use this Israeli intelligence company to hack phones of their citizens, they also use something called NICE Systems as part of their investigations. Now, NICE Systems is a subsidiary of Israel's largest arms company, Elbit Systems. The level of integration...
Does Elbit sound familiar to you?
Between British and Israeli intelligence is unprecedented. Not only is this program used by British police, it's also used by the British Foreign Office. So you are talking about the outsourcing of Britain's external intelligence functions to elements of the Israeli intelligence agencies. When we look even further at this question, we wonder how companies like Celebrite could have got such a foothold in the British public sector. Well,
now do y'all not realize how, now fuck that Satan shit. This is some real scary shit. You got a foreign country that is allowed access to data of citizens of another country. Like, that's some scary shit. So all of these pro-Palestine demonstrations, Palestinian solidarity activists, Palestinians in diaspora, all of these people are exposed to Israel. because the government has contracts with Israeli companies. That's why BDS is so important. That's why keeping up the pressure. Like UC Davis divested from Israel today. So that's why it's important to like get institutions and governments to divest from Israel, because this is a rogue state. Like, this is a state that has an agency, Mossad, that literally will go abroad and kill people in other countries. This is some dangerous shit. You're worried about China and TikTok, but Israel actually has a record of doing this fucked up shit to people in foreign countries. So that's something that we have to keep in mind. And that's why we have to keep the pressure to boycott, divest, and eventually sanction.
There is an organisation by the name of the UK-Israel Tech Hub, which has played a very important role in all of this. It's based in the British Embassy in Israel, but it is staffed by former military and intelligence personnel from the Israeli regime. It's headed by the former Director General of the Israeli Finance Ministry, Haim Shani. Haim Shani was also simultaneously the director of Celebrite. But who funds the UK-Israel Tech Hub? The UK-Israel Tech Hub is funded by the British Foreign Office, by the British Embassy in Israel, and the British Department of Trade. The UK-Israel Tech Hub exists for the sole purpose and with the stated objective of procuring public sector contracts in Britain for Israeli cyber and tech companies. British taxpayers fund an organisation which is facilitating Israeli tech companies staffed by former Israeli intelligence personnel taking over public sector contracts in Britain, including in the NHS. Currently, the data for the British Home Office, the British Ministry of Defence, and the NHS is handled by a company called Oracle. Oracle was founded by Larry Ellison, the 7th richest man in the world and close friend of Benjamin Netanyahu. Larry Ellison is the largest funder of the Friends of the IDF charity in the history of the organization. In addition to that, this company, Oracle, offered the directorship to Benjamin Netanyahu, meaning that the Home Office, the Ministry of Defense, the Foreign Office, and the NHS has its data stored in a cloud run by a company that Benjamin Netanyahu was supposed to be the director of. And do you know how that deal was procured by Larry Ellison? Let me tell you a story. At the same time that Larry Ellison was bidding for this contract, he had a charity in this country. It was called the Larry Ellison Foundation. And do you know who was employed for £500,000 a year at this charity? None other than the father-in-law of Prime Minister Boris Johnson. And guess what? When Larry Ellison's company Oracle procured the contract to store the data of the Ministry of Defence, the Home Office, the Foreign Office, and the NHS, the Larry Ellison Foundation was closed that very month.
A unit 8,200 guys start companies in Israel and then move them to the US. Then they get all the contracts and data we have been talking about. And Computer, one of my chatters, says that they worked for a company started by 8,200 guys. Very creepy. Very creepy and insidious behavior.
In addition to that, British Telecom is a key backbone of this country's infrastructure. It delivers telecommunications to millions of people. But why was it that the British government initiated a national security investigation into the latest shareholder takeover in British Telecom? Currently, the largest shareholder in British Telecom is Israeli-French businessman Patrick Drahi. Now, when he took the largest share in BT, the British government launched an investigation in that purchase on the basis of national security. But what could possibly be their issue with Patrick Drahi? Patrick Drahi is the founder and owner of Israeli news channel I-24. I-24 was found by Haaretz newspaper to work as a proxy of the Netanyahu family. I-24 employs tens of former Israeli military and intelligence personnel. In addition to that, Patrick Drahi purchased the Liberation newspaper in France, founded by Jean-Paul Sartre, and replaced the editor with a former agent of Unit 82.
Wait, he bought Sartre's newspaper? They're buying up leftist newspapers now?
Patrick Drahi has also been involved in funding organizations that work on settlement in Jerusalem. Patrick Drahi is currently the largest shareholder in British Telecom. This is a question of sovereignty. How is it that a state which outsources key functions of its intelligence and police services, that allows its data from key institutions to be given to former agents of a foreign power, how is it that a nation or a state that does that can have any claim to sovereignty? The question now is, how can those in the British public who feel passionately about issues like patriotism justify their willingness to outsource these key functions of the state to Israeli intelligence cartels? Palestine Action has launched a campaign which has seen 2 sites in this country for Israel's largest arms company, Elbit Systems, be shut down. The British Ministry of Defence cancelled £280 million worth of contracts with Elbit Systems because of Palestine Action activity, and they cited operational sovereignty. It's clear there are those in the British establishment who know what has happened here. The trilateral security state of the United States, Israel, and Britain renders Britain essentially a colony of the United States and Israel. Time to push back. Mainstream monopoly on information.
That was an extremely educational little piece. Yeah, follow Loki. He's on Twitter. Let's see what's going on here. Loki mentioned Pal Action. They've actually been suspended from Twitter. Comrade Callum Walsh says that after banning people from following the account when it first launched, which backfired and it gained 200,000 followers within a couple days, Apartheid Elon has suspended the U.S. branch of Palestine Action in another act of blatant Zionist censorship. Follow Pal Action. This is hilarious. F. Scott Fitzgerald's wife, Zelda, told him that he would never please a woman the way he was built. Fitzgerald confessed this to Hemingway at a French bar, and Hemingway told him to meet him in the bathroom, where Hemingway checked out his dick and said that everything looked fine. I imagine that they did a bit more, but history will not tell us, so we have to speculate. This is what I was talking about earlier. UC Davis, the University of California, Davis is divested from apartheid Israel. The bill prevents the ACUSCD's $20 million budget from being spent on companies complicit in the occupation and genocide. This is huge. University divestment efforts played a major role in ending South African apartheid. So after the Super Bowl massacre in Rafah, a lot of people were upset. They were sad because they didn't feel like they were doing anything. Okay, like boycotting, divestment, and sanctions, that's actually doing something. Because if you make enough problems, and if you get enough people on board, shit will move. According to the Israeli Maariv, 71% of Israelis support carrying out a war in Lebanon. You dumb motherfuckers. Remember that black people don't have to read Marx discourse? One of my historian friends from California, David, actually made a very good comparison. He says that I think it's foolish to not read Marx. And if someone doesn't want to, that's fine, whatever. What's absurd to me is when someone says, I don't need to read about capitalism because I experience it every day. Bullshit. Getting hit by a car doesn't teach you what's in an engine. You can get hit by a car every day of your life and not know how an engine or a drivetrain or a car battery works. Same with experiencing exploitation. Experiencing it on a micro level doesn't mean you understand it on a macro level, or else everyone would be a social scientist. Also, it's no coincidence that those who don't read or organize are most susceptible to contrarianism that could turn reactionary. Very well said, David. So listen to that actual professor. Some people are telling me, look after your mental health because they sense my rage. I'm sorry, but it is a sign of sanity to feel utter rage when a genocide is raging around you. The ones remaining calm and unbothered should check their mental health in the genocide. If you're not fucked up by this stuff that's going on your screen every day, then you're probably a sociopath. From The Hague today says that the top UN court rejects the South African request for an urgent measure to safeguard Rafah. Ahmad X says, this is the reason why I will forever defend armed resistance against white supremacy. These institutions were never designed to protect black and brown people. This is what a local comrade shared with me earlier and asked me to share. Today, when I woke up and stepped out of the tent to charge my phone, I found a little child, 6 years old, sleeping under a truck in the street. I woke him up and asked him why he was sleeping outside. He said, my whole family was martyred in Rafah, and I came under the truck so that no one would see me and run me over, and I could go to my family. The child was very pale. I took him to the medical point so they could reach his relatives or help him after. Shortly after, I asked the doctor at the medical point, the Neshama point next to the barracks in Rafah, and the doctor informed me that the child had died from severe cold. So this little kid, this 6-year-old kid, literally froze himself to death because he could not bear to be away from his entire family that had been martyred. This is what you're supporting. This is what our tax dollars are going to. Comrade Nico from New York City, DSA, along with another comrade, is hosting this Protagonism, Moving from Service to Sovereignty and Stewardship. It's a presentation on protagonism, collective stewardship, the reactionary service dependency model, the history of their tenants union, and abolishing rent. The parochial model, service model of tenant advocacy led by nonprofit housing organizations whose funders are often housing providers, landlords themselves. I always find it dystopian how landlords are called housing providers. I would call construction workers housing providers. Those are the people who build the houses, dominates our cities. The nonprofit model of casework atomizes tenants and tenant associations, making those tenants wholly dependent on the resources, knowledge, skills, and often legislative inclinations of a few experts who are not their neighbors in their buildings and paid staff. The model seeps into even our independent tenant unions being spurred on by liberal identity politics. In contrast, we have the protagonism model, taking some inspiration from Chavismo and the Communard movement in Venezuela, but also the history of independent tenant unionism in New York City dating back to 1904. Brooklyn Eviction Defense Tenant Union is taking the ideas of popular democracy, sovereignty, collectivization of skills, institutional permanency, and democratic centralization of stewardship. Instead of a dependency on and deference to experts, we are moving to empower our members to depend on the collective insights and solidarity that are contained in the union. TA to TA, member to member. Moreover, our General Assemblies are our highest decision-making body, and all working groups and assemblies are subordinated to general membership. So this is from Autonomous Tenant Union Network and Brooklyn Eviction Defense. So if you're in the Brooklyn area, you need to check this out if you're a renter. So, yeah. Let's see what else I got. This is dumb. For some reason, white people have been especially reckless this Black History Month.
This controversial permission slip making the rounds on social media. It was given to us by a parent who says his first grader brought it home for him to sign. The form.
So it says student name, telephone number, activity and event name. They're reading aloud a book, okay? The description and nature of the activity of an event. This is a permission slip. Like when I was in school, you had to have a permission slip to go on a fucking go on a field trip or whatever. But these kids need a permission slip to participate in and listen to a book written by an African American. Yeah, this is DeSantis's fascism because he's determined to purge anything by black people, brown people from Florida public schools. This is fascism. Pretty soon they're going to be holding open book burnings.
Describes a read aloud for Tuesday in the library at Coral Way K8 in Miami. It says students will participate and listen to a book written by an African American. It also says guests that may attend are fireman, doctor, artist. The parent telling NBC6 this is an unneeded process for our overworked teachers and can create more division among parents. School board member Dr. Steve Gallen.
I think there is a high level of ambiguity. I've requested that the administration solicit clarity from the state.
The requirement was implemented to comply with the 2022 Parental Rights in Education Law and the Stop Woke Act. The Stop Woke Act.
The Stop Woke Act. We live in hell. I'm going to go get this shit out of my sinuses and go to sleep. Y'all meditate on the hell that we live in and what we can do to change it. I'm BRG.